Reverend Kusi-Boateng had gone to court to prevent Samuel Ablakwa from continuing with the work that he was doing. Today, we're hearing that the court has made a decision in favor of the Member of Parliament. It's actually joining us on the line. Honorable, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Hi, Umaru. Thank you very much for having me.
So, what happened? The courts said you are free to go and do your work. What exactly happened?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening to all Citi FM's distinguished listeners. Yes, the judge was very emphatic that I can continue to do my work. Remember that Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng or Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi sought to restrain me from further investigations, further parliamentary oversight duties, and also further publication, claiming that the work I was doing was violating his fundamental human rights under Article 33 of the 1992 Constitution. The learned judge held today that claim that I was violating his fundamental human rights could not be supported because the evidence that I presented, my lawyers proved that these are two distinct personalities and that Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng has his own mother, has a separate date of birth, has an entirely different identity. And then Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi also has a separate date of birth, a different mother, a different kin, and an entirely different personality. And that he had used both concurrently and had sought to conceal this fact from the general public. The judge said that it was because of my work that it came to light. But for the parliamentary oversight we carried out, nobody will have known that he has two distinct personalities. Indeed, even before the High Court, he had initiated a matter in the name Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng. And yet, in this present application, had come before the court as Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi, alias Victor Kusi-Boateng. So the judge said that he was not convinced with the excuse that it was an alias and that this cannot be an alias. Indeed, the judge went as far as to say that what he was doing bordered on criminality and that his lawyers should even have advised him to desist instead of proceeding to court. What is also quite fundamental is that the learned judge said that under Article 33, to enforce your human right, the fundamental human right, you must be an interested party, you must have capacity, or you must have locus standi. In this case, the judge is saying that she doesn't know which of the personalities' human rights has been violated. Is it the human right of Victor Kusi-Boateng or the human right of Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi? She is at a loss because the evidence, as has been proven, is that these are two separate identities. And so she cannot determine whose rights are to be enforced or are to be protected. So the case was dismissed outrightly, and a cost of 10,000 Ghana cedis has been awarded against him. So yes, it's victory for the truth, it's victory for parliamentary oversight. What this means is that I can continue with the investigations, continue with the publication, and most importantly, continue to look into what really is the biggest project virtually in the entire history of our country. Because if you look at the cost implications of this whole national cathedral on the Ghanaian taxpayer, so far already $58.1 million has been sunk in, and all we see is a big hole. I mean, the international media is calling it the world's most expensive hole. We are not getting any value for money. Don't forget that there have also been so many demolitions. We are yet to pay compensation for a lot of the people who have lost their properties. Some are even at the High Court. This project will go down as the most reckless project that has ever been executed by any government. It is also important, Umaru, to emphasize that at the heart of this running battle with Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng. It's a conflict of interest discovery I made, that whilst he sat on the board of the National Cathedral as Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng, he made payments to an entity, JNS Company Limited, where he is director in the name Kwabena Edujemfi, and a separate identity, hoping that he would not be found out. So people shouldn't forget really the background, because some people have sought to create the impression as though this is some personal battle or somebody I don't like. No, not at all. I don't know him from Adam. Nothing personal. I was doing this work, carrying out oversight, reviewing the documents that the National Cathedral Secretary had presented to Parliament. And then I discovered a strange payment of some 2.8 million Ghana cedis to a company known as JNS, which was described in the documents brought to Parliament as the payment for mobilization, contractors' mobilization. And so I said, no, I know the contractors on this project. They are Ribade, which is a joint venture of Rizani Di Eka, Babisoti, and Disimoni. These are the three contractors. Then I also know that the architect is David Ajayi, who also has his own issues, which we have been exposing, the inflationary pricing, the lack of procurement processes, and all of that. So I know that these are the contractors. Where from this JNS? So I decided to dig deeper. And that is what opened the Pandora's box, a can of worms, really. So don't forget, Umaru, that conflict of interest aspect, because of the Supreme Court decision, in my case, Okujeto Ablakwa versus Jacob Echebi Lamte, that conflict of interest matters should be resolved by SHRAJ. That's where you go to address it. That is the proper jurisdiction. That's the forum you go to with conflict of interest matters. SHRAJ is seized with that matter. I petition SHRAJ. So at the heart of this whole running battle with Kusi-Boateng is the conflict of interest matter. And I hope that this latest decision by the High Court, the Human Rights Court, will make SHRAJ expedite action on this matter so that we can get to the bottom of these issues.
So is this the only case in the courts, or there are other cases on the same subject or related subject in the courts?
Good question. So he brought 3 cases against me. So it's now 2-0. There's one outstanding. Remember, the first one was a contempt application he made seeking that I should be committed to jail. That was also dismissed because it turned out that the people he brought to Metro TV to accost me and to set me up were not bailiffs. So that case was dismissed. Then this is the second defeat. This was a human rights application he made saying that I was violating his fundamental human rights. There's a third one, which is also ongoing. And that one is a defamation suit, also at an Accra High Court, where he's seeking damages that I have defamed him. Clearly, the way things are going, I mean, once there's truth, I know truth is defense in defamation. The Human Rights Court has held that, look, the matter is proven. And to be honest with you, Umaru, before you make these serious, allegations, members of parliament will do their due diligence, will carry out their research very, very well. That's what I did. Indeed, I did not only, obtain documents, I also did right to information requests. GRA confirmed the documents that I had intercepted and confirmed that indeed he has 2 separate teams running concurrently with different mothers. I also did the right to information request at the Registrar of Companies, the Office of the Registrar of Companies. And they also confirmed that my information was accurate. They see different companies. He had, at the time I checked, registered 14 companies, 7 apiece in the 2 different identities. And they confirmed that indeed the information I have is accurate. These are different companies with different names under different identities. Don't also forget, Umaru, that I also was able to secure all his ID cards. I have his driver's license, which is in the name Victor Kusi-Boateng, different date of birth at DVLA. I also have his passport, which surprisingly a diplomatic passport in a different name, Kwabena Edujemfi, whereas he was appointed to the board as Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng. Indeed, even now, if you go on the National Cathedral website, under leadership, Board of Trustees, he is there presented as Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng. It is strange, however, that when the state decided to give him a passport to work with, a diplomatic passport to go about raising funds for this project, they issued a diplomatic passport in a different name, separate from. So I am glad that the Speaker has admitted my urgent question for the Foreign Minister to answer. How come her ministry also appears to have been complicit in granting a diplomatic passport in a different name to this gentleman who had been appointed as Reverend Victor Kusi-Boateng? So there are multiple layers. It's a hydra-headed situation. This was quite a complex operation. He had managed to, deceive multiple state institutions. I mean, the GRA said that they were surprised. They have commenced investigations as to how he was able to beat the system. Same at the Office of the Registrar of Companies. DVLA is also surprised. The Electoral Commission, don't forget, Umaro, you should remember that I was able to also secure 2016 voter ID card in the name Victor Kusi-Boateng and 2020 voter ID card in another name, Kwabena Edujemfi. So quite a mysterious figure, and as to how he was able to really, deceive all of these institutions, manipulate them, beat their integrity systems at a time that we were told that these are all biometric institutions. They've switched to biometric. They are doing biometric fingerprints and all of that. Even with the NIA, it was quite revealing that he got his Ghana card in another name, Kwabena Edujemfi, not in Victor Kusi-Boateng, which is the more popular name, which the state had virtually recognized him as such when he was appointed to the board of the National Cathedral. So but for this investigation, a very smooth operation. He had really executed it so well and was getting away with a lot until this discovery that our work in Parliament has led us to.
What other works are you doing, if you're doing any, on the cathedral, though? And what's the state of affairs in relation to whether we'll see the building up in the skies or not?
There are a lot of things I'm currently doing on the National Cathedral. First of all, there is the motion, which the Right Honourable Speaker has admitted, calling for a bipartisan parliamentary inquiry. There are just two stages left. That is the debate, and then the third stage would be constituting the committee. So the first stage is convincing the Speaker that there is prima facie basis for the Speaker to admit. Fortunately, we've crossed that hurdle. It's been admitted. We just now have to have the debate. So if you check the order paper, it is always on the order paper. And the sponsors of the motion, my colleagues and I think we are about 7, including the minority leader, the chief whip, Reverend Intoso, Reverend Bejra, and others. We're just waiting for it to be programmed for the debate. So that's an important angle to look out for. Then there is the Shraj aspect with the conflict of interest matter. I have also filed a number of urgent questions because I'm receiving petitions from people whose properties were demolished, that they are worried that they are not receiving compensation. Some are in court. So I filed 2 urgent questions for the Ministers of Lands and Natural Resources and Chief Tourism, because from the 2023 budget, the National Cathedral has now been placed under the Minister responsible for tourism. So we want them to come and tell us what the arrangements are for compensation, because the risk is that we may soon be saddled with huge judgment debts. Then there's also the diplomatic angle. The Malian ambassador also has concerns about compensation. Remember that his residence was demolished to give way. Then there is also the latest development about the architect. Remember that because of the current state of misconduct which has been leveled against him. Virtually all the projects that David Ajay is associated with, they have distanced themselves from the project, from this architect. So the London mayor has asked him to resign. He was one of 42 advisors on design for the City of London. The British government has also asked him to step back from the project that was to honor the Holocaust. So the whole is known as the Holocaust Memorial Project. He's been asked to step back from that. UAE, United Arab Emirates, have also asked him to stay away from the project. The African University has also asked him to stay away. The Harlem Community Project has also asked him to stay away, and a host of others. It appears that it's only the Ghanaian government and the Ghanaian Board of Trustees who haven't seen what is going on and are silent. So there is a statement that has been made asking for, which I have made, asking for the Ghanaian government to follow the good examples out there. Then there is also the aspect relating to even the cost of this project. Remember that the contract was a very bad one. So all of these 16, 17 months that there is no work going on the site, we are paying the cranes that are there, we are paying for it. We are paying the contractors what they call standing time costs and all of that. Terribly negotiated contract. So we have been agitating in Parliament, and we've made statements on the floor and also engaged the media, demanding an abrogation of the contract is the only way to save costs, because we may not be doing the project now. Contractors are not on site as in working actively, because since March 2022, the project was abandoned for lack of payment.
But we are still making payments.
But we are still making payment because of how terrible the contract is.
We need to leave it here for now, but congratulations. And the money, when you are taking it to Japan, please do a stopover at Astrari Junction and drop a few bundles. Thank you so much for speaking to us. That's Honorable Samuel Kusi-Boateng Ablakwa. He's Member of Parliament for North Town.